and Avalanche podcast. In today's episode, we're going to be just kind of previewing the Avs matchup with the Stars in round two. But before we get too much into the matchup, let's talk a little bit about how weird it is. The Avalanche are starting tomorrow. They're not waiting for round one to finish. Theoretically, round one might be done, but there's a very good chance that St. Louis and Vancouver or Philly and Montreal still have a game seven to play when the Avs are starting round two. So what do you guys think of that? Just getting them just right off the bat, we're rolling.
I mean, I like it, but it's a pretty surprising move in my opinion. I didn't expect that.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. It's definitely surprising. But we've actually seen the NBA do this in the past. They're kind of notorious for just jumping into the next series, not really letting them wait as long as like the next series, or as long as they have a matchup, then they're just ready to get her going. And I mean, I kind of like it. It's specifically for the situation that they're in. This also just means that the quicker that the Avs can send home the Stars, it's better for them. So
yeah, I don't hate the
they
don't have the 2 day rest without like giving too long a gap for the boys to kind of cool off a little bit. It's nice to when you're rolling off two back-to-back 7-goal games, you want to retain that momentum. So just the 2 days off is kind of nice for that. It might lead to a weird scenario. The Avs could finish this series. Like if the Avs theoretically swept this series, they'd be done and Vegas would be in game 2. And if that one ends up going 7, the Avs might be looking at like close to a week and a half off.
Week and a half, something like that. Yeah, that would be interesting. But really, I think what they're trying to do here is just they're trying to get as many teams out of the bubble as possible so that they can kind of get the numbers down. So the quicker that they can get this series done, that means one team is getting sent home. So that's kind of my theory behind it. Definitely not something that we've seen in the past from the NHL, but definitely different circumstances, being that we are in a bubble and all the boys are like kind of being quarantined in there. So I think that's kind of what's going on. Personally, though, as an Avs fan, I'm really excited just because I was not really looking forward to waiting a whole week to watch some more Avs hockey, but we're getting a little bit of a gift tomorrow night.
Yeah, and 6 o'clock too.
Time.
So
yeah,
that's nice.
6 o'clock.
And
I love
NBC,
that.
No more.
Yes,
it doesn't look like there will be any more altitude broadcasts, so everything's going to be national now. No worries about watching anything. I mean, they waived the blackouts last time, so there weren't worries anyway. But now we're on national TV for every game, and since there's only one game in each bubble per day, pretty much everything will be either like I believe starts earlier than 5 p.m. So it's going to be nice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, finally. I know a lot of my family, at least, and myself were not too happy with the start times in this last round, but we already mentioned it. Billy, you made up a good point that it's like, well, half of Colorado couldn't watch the Avalanche before like they waived the blackouts, and then the Coyotes are technically one of the lowest, smallest markets in the entire league. So that's definitely a reason that they did that, but still a little bit surprising just because of how fun the Avs are to watch. But now everyone can enjoy them.
Yep, which is exciting.
Yep.
So let's get into the Stars series a little bit, and it's a matchup that I like. I think they're kind of like, it's almost like playing Arizona's big brother in a way. Just a team that likes to play a low event style, grind you down and win 2-1 or 3-2. And I think better than the other options, St. Louis or Vancouver, I feel like we are the most in the zone playing that type of hockey right now. So I like that element of it a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. This is, I mean, really, Vancouver would be the matchup that compares like the most against the Avalanche. The Avalanche are the most like high up tempo, like throw on a bunch of goals, a bunch of shots team that's like remaining in the Western Conference. Really, like Vegas, St. Louis, and Dallas, they all kind of play a little bit of that defensive style, just structured hockey. And Dallas is like the epitome of that, really. Like they super rely on like low scoring games and rely on good defense and good goaltending. So as long as the Avs can just continue to play their game and not fall into Dallas's trap, I do like this matchup a lot for them.
Yeah, I would agree. And I guess yesterday I said that the Stars that's probably the first time that they scored 7 goals in the season, and that was confirmed today. I did find out that is the first time they scored 7 goals in this season, and so just bottom line, our scoring is just going to be way better than these guys. This is going to be more of a defensive matchup in my eyes for sure.
Yeah,
especially you talked about the goaltending.
Yeah,
they're going to be in trouble if Hudobin gets the start. He did not look great in that series. He looked average, and I mean he wasn't terrible. He was better than Cam Talbot, but he he didn't look good. And if Ben Bishop isn't back, we don't really know anything about that. But if Ben Bishop isn't back, that is a major X factor in this series. Whether Hudobin can pick it up or not.
Yeah, they're really gonna. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no worries. Oh my goodness. Sorry, everyone. My sister was calling.
Oh, what are you?
But yeah, like they were a team that really relied on just the 1-2 goaltending matchup all season long. Like I've been saying that I thought they had one of the best goaltending tandems in the entire league, and for good reason, really. Like Ben Bishop's an absolute stud, and Hudobin was like not too far behind them. But really, it was a system that relied on them having like a backup option or just like kind of win by committee. And if Ben Bishop's out and Hudobin has to be the guy in there, then yeah, like you said, Billy, I think they're in trouble as well.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Their goaltending is a big strong point of the Dallas Stars. Honestly, if they want to make this a series, it's going to have to be a star-driven series, as in Tyler Seguin, Jamie Benn, Alex Radulov. These guys are going to have to put the puck in the net for sure. And we've seen so far this playoffs, they really have not, outside of a couple games, been able to do that. So if that's the case for the rest of the series, I think the Avs are going to weather this storm pretty well.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Joe Pavelski's been their best forward, and their best player overall has been a defenseman with Miro Heiskanen. Miro Heiskanen's only, I think, 1 or 2 points right behind McKinnon for the playoff lead in points.
Scoring as a defenseman.
Yeah, he's 12, so he's looked absolutely incredible. Just the 3 big head Western Conference young defenders with defensemen with Makar, Hughes, and Heiskanen, they've all been performing really well. So, but he has been their best player. Actually, it's not really even close. Pavelski had a hat trick in one game, which is kind of cool.
But 4-goal game last night.
I mean, in terms,
right?
Oh yeah,
that was outrageous, bro.
So, but they are gonna need to like rely on their, like past Art Ross Trophy winners, Hart Trophy winners, and Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn if they're gonna want to like even move like past this series or if not further than that.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think it's been a struggle for them all year trying to get those guys going, and Jamie Benn in particular in the playoffs has looked terrible. Tyler Seguin has had his moments where he's been pretty good. Joe Pavelski, like you said, has been their best one of their best forward in the bubble, I would say. Garyanov dropped a 4-goal game, but Jamie Benn just hasn't gotten anything going.
Yeah, he hasn't, and that's kind of just been consistent with the regular season as well. I don't know if just the speed caught up to him, but I don't really know how Jamie Benn fell off a rock so hard.
He's not that old that he should be falling off this hard yet, so it's definitely surprising.
Like, he could be in that contention with Corey Perry as 2, like, past Hart Trophy winners that don't even make the NHL Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely realistic.
And that's kind of, like, sad because it looked like Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn were going to be absolute franchise cornerstones for 10 years to come, and that's why they got the fat contracts that they did.
And now those contracts are looking real rough.
Yeah. So, but it really is going to have to get like everything runs through those two. If they're going to want to like keep pace with the Avalanche, especially the scoring wise. And then, like we said, Billy, it's like, do we know the status of Ben Bishop's?
We know that he hasn't played
what's going
in a while,
on here,
but we're not going to get any news until he plays, basically.
I mean, but at the same time, it's almost like, I mean, if he comes back and plays, it's like, is he going to be in total game shape against the Avalanche? Like, the last team that you'd probably want to face in the NHL
Yeah, you
playoffs
don't want
coming
to be a
back
cold
first.
goalie and get your first shots coming from McKinnon and Rantanen and Burakovsky. That'd be something rough right there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. I really love this matchup for the Avs, though. I was super happy when the Stars beat the Blues in the third game in that round robin series, just because I was like, man, we lucked out a little bit
We
with
did.
that, because if Vegas gets St. Louis, or I mean, Vancouver's up 3-2. I guess we'll have to see what happens tonight. But either one of those matchups, it's going to be
Yeah, can we
pretty
talk a
scary
little bit about that?
for the
Because
Blues.
for the Avs, it's great. You know, we lucked out. If St. Louis does come back and take the series from Vancouver, you have to feel a little bit like Vegas got screwed. Like, they won the game, they earned the 1 seed, and they're going to get the tougher matchup just because St. Louis tanked the round robin.
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I kind of feel like some of the teams, like maybe a Boston or a St. Louis, well, actually both of them that finished the regular season in first place in their respective conferences, got to play 3 games to determine the seeding. So I guess they might feel a little bit
Yeah,
screwed in
but
the
they
end as
definitely
well.
knew, like, Boston in particular, it was very clear that they did not take it seriously and chose to fall to the 4 seed. You know, I mean, even just watching the interviews, they said this is just an exhibition game. So Boston was able to flip the switch. St.
I
Louis
mean,
didn't drop 2 games, and they might regret that. But I feel a little bit bad for Vegas in that regard. Like, you know, I think they'll be fine. I think they'll get through the series, whoever they play. But I do feel like they got a little bit screwed on that end.
yeah, but I don't really think it's anything like a knock on the NHL
No,
system
not
with
at
the
all.
entire
I
thing,
think it's a knock
because,
on St. Louis.
like, I mean, yes, exactly. That's kind of what I'm. That's my point exactly. Like, because if St. Louis ended up winning that game, Vegas was going to play the win, or the loser of that game in the second
Yeah.
round anyway. So, and it just so happened to be St. Louis, and that game was before, and all that. So I don't really think it's a knock on the system or anything, but it is a knock on St. Louis.
Yeah, so that'll be. It's definitely. That series is going to be interesting to monitor just to see. I feel like Vancouver started out hot. I don't know. I mean, they have 2 shots to end it, so they could advance, and that would definitely be something. Like, that was one.
Yeah.
I know, Marshall, you predicted it, but I think Zach and I both took St. Louis, so that'll be interesting to see. But let's talk a little bit more about what the Stars do have going on defense, because they like to play defensive hockey for a reason, and they can shut you down. It starts with their top pairing in Miro Heiskanen and John Klingberg, one of the best top pairings in the league, and especially the way Heiskanen's been playing. That is one of the major things that the Avalanche are going to have to watch. What worries you? What worries you guys about those two?
Probably their puck moving ability, honestly. The Avs, especially that bottom 6, is a forward-checking squad, and if they're matching up well in their home games, then they're going to be able to, break the puck out pretty easily in those cases. Those 2 players are very dynamic, especially right now in the bubble.
Yeah, Zach, they are very dynamic, and they can skate the puck too. They are terrific puck moving defensemen, and really are 2 of the only defensemen in the league that can, like keep up with the skating ability of, Colorado's top forwards and top defensemen. So that's really what scares me. Just them being able to keep pace with the rest of the guys. But I do like the fact that we will have first changes for a majority of the season. So that's kind of something that is not really talked about too often. Just so Bednar can kind of like see who he wants the matchups to be against and see what works with that. So we'll definitely have to keep an eye on it. It's going to be fun watching those 2 against just the Avalanche forward. So
Yeah, that's going to be super exciting. The other element of it is it'll be fun to watch that little 2017 draft defenseman battle. Right now, I think Heiskanen probably a little bit
Yeah.
more developed on his defensive side of the game. Makar a little bit of a, despite what the points would tell you right now, I think Makar is probably the better offensive defenseman. It'll be really cool to kind of see those two going at it and just show like this is,
Well,
along with Hughes, this is the future of defensemen in the West.
oh yeah, absolutely. You touched on ability. It's like, yeah, Heiskanen might be a little bit more developed defensively. But we've seen Makar's offensive ability. It's definitely not a
Yeah.
knock on Heiskanen. But a 4-point night doesn't necessarily hurt the stat sheet in the playoffs. So that's what he had last night. So yeah, like that's a good point. Back to back, third and fourth overall picks in 2017. And really, they're going to be compared for the rest of their careers, especially being in the same division against each other. And this is just the start of it right here with the playoff
Yeah,
series.
I like the idea of a nice little budding rivalry between the two of them.
Yeah. Really quick though, how much weight do you guys put on the Avalanche's regular season record against
Almost
the Stars?
none. It's been
Yeah, I would agree with Billy.
almost 8 months since we last played them in the regular season. It was like
Yeah.
January, I believe, our last game. And when we did get to the bubble and we played them in the bubble, we walked all over them. So
Yeah.
I'm not worried about it. I
absolutely.
think they had our number
So-
for a little bit. That's done.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Just thought I'd throw out that question because I know that's something that people are throwing out there, but I'm in the same boat. I don't really think that there should be too much weight put into it.
Yeah,
But
but definitely anytime a team
But-
sweeps the season series, it's worth talking about because there's clearly something there. You know, whether it's the Avs took a while to kind of solve that Dallas puzzle, or maybe they hadn't quite developed that style of their game yet to that point. There's definitely a reason.
I mean, Ben Bishop was a key to those regular
We
season
outplayed them
games
in a
too.
couple.
Yeah. So really what hinges for me with Dallas in this series is if they can figure out some way at all to even get Radulov going or Sagan or Ben going, and the status of Ben Bishop.
Definitely.
Yeah, like I touched on earlier, I feel like they are going to need to have a big series if they even want a shot, honestly.
Yeah.
Even though they got a couple good depth players and Joe Pavelski and maybe this guy that scored 4 goals. What's his name again, Billy?
Garyanov, whatever the pronunciation
Yeah, that's right.
is.
Garyanov.
Denis Garyanov.
Yeah, they got a couple players. Joe Pavelski would be probably the scariest depth player on the Stars. But other than that, I'm not really too worried about the top line. They have shown time and time again, at least to me, that they are maybe the chemistry is just not there.
And they
Yeah,
fall off hard
absolutely.
in their bottom six up front too. They have some quality guys in their top six. Whether or not they've been producing is another matter, but once you get into the bottom half of their forward lineup, it falls off hard.
Yeah. I just don't see this team being able to compete with the Avalanche over a 7-game series, really.
Yeah, I think there's definitely something to that. Let's talk a little bit about the Avs side of things, and then we'll get into X factors and predictions at the end. What do you do when Nemesnikov comes back? It's a question we've asked on the pod a couple of times. I'm almost at the point where I even consider just leaving him out. I love what everyone else is bringing, and without him in the lineup, we just scored 7 goals in back-to-back games. Those are results that are hard to argue with. But what do you guys think? Do you put him back in, and if you do, who are you taking out?
This is actually really, really hard because the boys, you're right, scored 14 goals in 2 games. And while it was against a battered, probably not very into it team, I still think we made a move at the trade deadline for this guy. If he's available, I think you got to get him in the lineup.
I would agree with that.
Yeah,
it
ahead.
is hard
Yeah,
though.
because
It
who are
is
you
hard
taking out
because
is the question.
Right.
I honestly think
Jost,
it's got to be Jost again. Now.
yeah, but he's been playing so well, especially these last 2 games.
Yeah.
Jost has been doing
But
exactly what
I
we
don't
need him to
know.
do.
Exactly, but unfortunately, it's just like you got to kind of pick and choose. And Nemaskov was able to really change the entire dynamic of the forward lines. Like we were able to roll Nemaskov out with the first line and put
Yeah,
Landy down
but
on that second line. And since he's been out, the three-headed monster got reunited, and that's not necessarily been a bad
I
thing.
mean, Nemesnikov wasn't great.
Kind of back to doing what they do.
He played less than a period
No, he
in
wasn't.
the series, like by minutes, like 15 or 16 minutes, I believe. And he wasn't great. So that's one thing to mention. And with a three-headed monster, they're sticking together, I believe. Like, they were rolling so well at the end of the series that I don't think you break them up. So then you look at your second line and you say, so what are we doing here? You're definitely, obviously you have Kadri, probably Burakovsky. Are you going to put Nemesnikov in that next spot? Or are you going to put Nichushkin in that spot? Or are you going to put Donskoy in that spot? Because honestly, to me, I think whoever you don't might be that odd man out. Because I think they want to leave Jost in next to Comfer. The way Jost and Comfer have been playing together is tough to break up, almost in the same way that it's tough to break up that Calvert Nieto Belmar line. So to me, the options are maybe you take out Jost. If not, you pick 2 of those 3 between Donskoy, Nemesnikov, and Nichushkin, and you take out the other one. Or the other option is to maybe even look at taking out Belmar.
Oh my gosh!
But okay, so we are lucky that we did not have to make this call.
Yeah.
But for Bednar, this is not at all a bad problem to have. And I've said that again. If you can't find a roster spot for Nemestikov, Jost, or Billy, you even brought it up, like Donskoy, then you know that you have something serious brewing. I don't even know how to do this, and I'm gonna wait for the people that get paid millions of dollars to put these lineups together to make that decision. But if it were me, and I had to make the decision, I think I would be taking out Jost, and that would be really hard for me. But I do think there is some way on why we ended up bringing him in at the trade deadline, like you said, Zach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree. It's like I said, it's hard. Jost has been doing everything you wanted these last couple games, and to me, it's just a non-option to take out Nuke or Donskoy. Yeah, that's just a non-option. No, that's a non-option.
Especially
I would
Nichushkin.
highly,
because if you're playing Dallas, you're not worried
about
about Dallas scoring. So defensively, especially if you're switching in with Nemesnikov brings enough to the table defensively, and Nichushkin's done nothing on offense in the playoffs. And so, I mean, what do you?
Yeah.
I feel like that's definitely got to be in consideration.
I mean,
is that really his role, though? Is that really? That's
no,
not
but
really
it's the role
Nuke's
that we need right now.
But
it's
he
the
was
role
doing
we
it.
need.
He was.
I mean, if we're going to beat Dallas, they're not going to outscore us. If we're firing on all cylinders offensively, that's the way we beat them. So, particularly for this matchup, I'll take the goal scorer over the lockdown defensive forward, especially if that drop-off is from Nichushkin elite kind of defensive play from the wing to Jost or Nemesnikov, where you're still getting very solid defensive play and a little bit more offensive upside.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a pretty hot
I don't even know if he would call Jost has 1 goal, and he had less points than Nichushkin in the regular season. So I don't really know how much more offensive upside.
I think it's substantial. I think Jost, only had the 1 point, but he and Comfer were generating opportunities. There were things that maybe Jost didn't quite get the assist, but definitely helped out on a goal. And I mean, Nichushkin, on the other hand, you look at his regular season, yes, and he had a very good year for him offensively in the regular season, but it was it's still very much up for debate whether or not that was a flash in the pan. And I'm not basing my roster decision on that regular season. I'm basing it on what's just happened. And in the playoffs so far, Jost undoubtedly has been the better offensive player, especially when it comes to generating opportunities.
Compared to Nuke, I totally agree. Yeah, I mean, there's no debate there.
That
is a fair point.
Which way do you go? Do you want the more defensive guy, or are you rolling with the goal scorer? And it's a very, very close call, admittedly. Like, there's no easy decision here. So I honestly don't know what I would do if I were in Bednar's shoes. Marshall, I know you said you sit Jost. I don't envy him making this decision at all, but like you said, Marshall, at the same time, I'd rather make this decision than decide which guy that I don't want in my lineup do I have to force in there. So
yeah. Like if we're having to bring like, you know, one of the fourth players that we brought, like a Sheldon Drives or something into the lineup, then that's when you know that the Avs are kind of starting to get in a tricky situation. We are not in a tricky situation when we have to figure out a roster spot for Nemesnikov.
Definitely. All right, so we went into that in a little Nemesnikov tangent for a bit, but let's move now into X factors. So we'll start with Dallas. Just give me one or two. Just who are your biggest X factors on the Stars? To me, it starts with goaltending. If Ben Bishop is out of this series, I think that it's a quick series because I don't think that Hudobin has what it takes to stand up to what the Avs bring as far as offensive firepower. If Ben Bishop is back, I think there's a much better chance. So goaltending is absolutely, to me, the biggest X factor heading into this series.
Yeah, for me, it's probably offense. So once again, I'm going to go Tyler Seguin, Jamie Benn for the Stars. I don't know if you guys feel about this, but to me, like Billy says, the Stars are kind of like, you know, a little big brother Coyotes. And the game plan remains the same. Just fire shots on net. And I don't see the Avs really having much trouble getting more than 30 shots a game. Like, this is not going to be too much of an issue. And, yeah, I mean, if they want to make it a series, those two guys got to score.
I mean, for me, yeah, Zach, the X factor is like Tyler Seguin, Jamie Benn, and Alexander Radulov, like I had already mentioned. If they're going to want to try to beat the Avalanche, they're going to at least have to score like more than 3 goals in a game. And I honestly don't really know if that's going to happen. I could see a series in which Dallas doesn't get more than 3 goals. I think 3 goals is their max. And
you mean in a game? Or
I mean, if you were looking last night.
Okay, I was going to say that's low. Gotcha.
No, in a game. Per game. Like, I don't see them getting like 4 or 5 goals or something. Yeah. And if they're going to want to win, then they're going to need to, because if I just don't see. I love this matchup,
agree, Marshall, because Dallas all year has been a team that they don't score more than 2 or 3 goals in a game very often. They beat you when they hold you to fewer goals. So I don't care how good the Dallas defense is, you're not holding Colorado's offensive firepower below 3 goals for 7 games. You might be able to get away with doing it for a game or two. You might steal one here or there. Eventually, if you want to beat Colorado, you have to score. You have to win a game 4-3. You can't win all. You can't win 4 games 2-1 or 3-2 against Colorado.
That's the thing. That's why like this series does not scare me. It's because I don't think Dallas could do it. I really just don't think that they're gonna absolutely just stop the onslaught from Colorado's offense and then be able to just run with them at the same time.
Yeah, we'd have to see a different Dallas team than we've seen all year for them to be able to keep up on the offensive side, which, not to say that that's never happened. Sometimes teams flip a switch before a playoff series, but it would take a real change in the mentality that Dallas has rolled with for them to feasibly keep up on the offensive side of the puck.
Thank God we don't have Cam Talbot.
Exactly.
Right.
Wonder why Dallas scored 7 goals because they weren't playing against a legitimate starting NHL goalie.
Because they had a goalie that got pulled. Their next goalie came in, got pulled, and the first goalie came in again. If you want to know about the Flames' whole like situation that they have going on, that just read into that game because holy crap!
Yeah.
Like what?
Dallas
What a
scored some goals in their
disaster!
last game, but they did it on. First of all, the Flames not nearly as strong defensively as Colorado is, and second of all, they were starting Cam Talbot. So
yes, like I think they had like 22 shots on goal and like 7 goals. So
like, it was
wasn't
definitely
like
very
they tried
bad.
to 50.
That
that's
game,
some roller
to me,
hockey scores.
That game is definitely an outlier, though. They're not going to be able to do that again. And I honestly see the Dallas Stars having trouble getting into the zone. I feel like the Avs defense is too good, and our back check is.
Especially
we got fast players.
Especially
They're coming
with
back.
guys that in the regular season weren't doing all that much on the back check. Mikko Rantanen, the one that sticks out, for as much as he has struggled, as much as you can say a point per game, right around a point per game player has struggled. Rantanen hasn't been his best, but the one thing he has been doing better than the regular season is he has been grinding it out more on the back check. And like all the Avs, he looks like he is here to win. And all of our guys have been very strong on the back check. And like you said, Zach, it's going to be tough for Dallas to just even breaking out the puck and getting into the zone is going to be hard for them.
I agree.
All right, so let's move to the Colorado X Factors. There's a lot of ways that you could go with this. So let's start with you, Marshall. Give me your biggest X Factor on Colorado.
Cale Makar. Specifically because of the fact that this is the start of the whole Makar versus Heiskanen narrative, and I think Makar is going to absolutely blow Heiskanen out of the water, and he's going to start entering into that Conn Smythe conversation by the end of this series. That's my prediction, and he is really my biggest X factor. I love Dallas's defense, and in order for Colorado to kind of keep pace with them a little bit, especially with their higher guys, Makar's going to have a big series.
A little bold there, but I love it. If Makar, Heiskanen has been incredible in the playoffs, and if Makar matches that or exceeds it, it will be massive. Zach, who is your X factor on the Avalanche?
So maybe this is slightly cliche to choose Nathan MacKinnon, but as we've seen, now is the time. Like people are we've had this debate on the podcast before. Who's better, Nathan MacKinnon or Connor McDavid? Now that debate's becoming more prominent, especially now that McDavid's not playing. They can only watch MacKinnon, and there's been some good points made. MacKinnon has a way better physical game than Connor McDavid, and they're pretty comparable on their offensive side of the puck for sure.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's not.
Yeah.
If you're talking about, it's hard to differentiate here, but if you're talking about rolling out in just a standard regular season game, who is the better player, who is the more talented player, I don't think there's much debate that it's McDavid. If you're talking about the way that McDavid elevates his game in the playoffs, there is a case to be made. I still think I need to see more. I think I need to say Stanley. I think I need to see like a legitimate Stanley Cup run out of MacKinnon before I'd be willing to say that I'd give him the edge. Right now, I'd still lean McDavid, but he's making a case for himself, leading the playoffs in points. Mm-hmm. He's the best player in the bubble, and I don't think there's much debate about that, or even around the league at this point. But yeah, he will have a major impact on this series. So definitely an X factor.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting having that guy on our side. Really, the first guy in a long time that on the Avalanche that we can consider maybe the best player in the world. To me, he is showing to me right now that he has developed a little bit more of an overall game than McDavid. But I think in terms of just game-breaking talent, I mean, you still have to go McDavid. But MacKinnon is showing that he can be very responsible in his own zone. will get down and dirty and play that physical game, and really like he'll stand up for the boys too. You saw that after
It was a
he got
McCarr.
hit and then
McCarr got
someone,
boarded,
sorta.
and then
Yeah,
McCann
okay.
destroyed Fisher.
Yeah. Yeah, so I love that. I love that. So that's just something. He's really the guy that leads by example on this team. He's not really going to be like the Landeskog style of leadership. Really like vocal in the locker room. I mean, I'm obviously not in the locker room, but I just see everything runs through McKinnon. And if he's going, the Avalanche are going.
Yeah,
really.
I definitely agree with that. So for me, I know I gave the goalies for Dallas, but Philip Grubauer for the Avs is going to be another X factor. He was good in the Coyotes series, but he wasn't tested. So it's still almost a little bit of like a mystery box. Like you aren't totally sure what you're going to get. Are we going to get hot Philip Grubauer like we saw in the series against the Flames last year, or really throughout the playoffs last year, where he can compete with anyone? Or are we going to get Philip Grubauer when he's struggling? And the reason that the Caps let him go for Holtby the year that he left. Which version of playoff Grubauer do we see? I'm hopeful. He looked good enough in the Arizona series that I think we're going to get a fairly hot Grubauer, but he definitely was not tested enough for me to say I'm 100% confident that we're going to win the goaltending battle. Whether it's, I mean, if Ben Bishop comes back at full strength, they win the goaltending battle pretty much regardless. But if it's Grubauer, then I like our odds there, but I definitely want to see it from Grubauer.
And coming back to that point, Billy, that you made, that he wasn't really tested in the Arizona series. He definitely wasn't, but I also don't think that Dallas is the team that's going to be the one to
that might be a good
seriously test him. So I think he's going to have another really good series. I think we're going to see 4 more wins from him. Without, it would be kind of hard for me to see Frankie coming in right now, just because we're starting to gear up. Well, like
unless
just
there's
for
a
even a
back to
game or
back,
something.
and even then you definitely have to consider just leaving in Gru.
Yeah, just because it's starting to get to that like crunch time. Like this is the semifinals in the Western Conference, so you want your goaltender rolling on all cylinders by the time we get to the Western Conference Finals or the Stanley
Absolutely.
Cup.
Yeah, I think I don't think there's any debate about it. You roll with Grubauer, and I think that I'm hopeful that he will be the guy that he was last year that really helped us win that series against Calgary so handily. So that's where I'm at. Let's give our predictions. Zach, let's start with you. Who wins it? How long does it go?
Personally, this is a way better team than, maybe not way better than what Arizona was. I could see them taking 2, maybe pushing us to 7. I don't see it going less than 6, but I'll take the Avs in 6.
What do you think, Marshall?
Avs in 5. I'm pretty confident about that. I think Dallas just plays their game and ends up stealing a game from us, but I think the Avalanche have looked the best out of any team in the bubble so far. Although we weren't playing particularly the greatest team ever, but in terms of first-round performances, I think the Avs blew everyone out of the water, and I think they're just going to continue to roll. So I see Dallas stealing 1, but it's going to be another series that ends pretty quickly. In my
Marshall,
opinion.
I'm on the same page as you. I'm also taking the Avs in 5 with the qualifier. That is if Ben Bishop does not come back. If Ben Bishop comes back, that's a game changer, and I think that maybe it becomes a 6-game series, maybe even a 7-game series. I'm taking the Avs either way. I don't think either goalie beats the Avs. Like you said, though, I mean, it's hard to predict a sweep. This is hockey. I'm never gonna predict any team to sweep another in a 7-game series because anything can happen in one hockey game, and there's a good chance that whether it's because they outplay us or because their goalie steals a series or what, maybe, or a game or something, maybe Dallas wins a game or 2. So I think it happens in 5. I think the Avs get through, and I think we roll right into the Western Conference Final, and meet up against Vegas.
Yep.
Same
All
boat
right.
here.
I like where we're at. This is... The more I watch the Avs, the more I feel like they want this to be their year as much as we want. Like, obviously, they want it even more as players, but... Like, Avs fans have been waiting a long time to have a competitive team, and the players look like they're on that same wavelength, where they want so badly to be the best, and the way they've played, they look like it. So I'm very hopeful, very excited.
I've been saying it, and I know Zach's on the same page. As the Avs win the Stanley Cup, get that too, baby.
I love it.
Yeah, oh yeah.
All right. It looks like we still got a couple viewers left in our live chat, so go ahead and hit that like button if you're still in here. Help us grow the channel a little bit. And before we do get out of here for today, any last things that you guys want to talk about relating to this series or just the Avs in general?
Nothing for me. Just go Avs. I'm excited the game's tomorrow night.
I'm excited to not have to wait.
We have something to look forward to tomorrow now.
It feels weird. It's also exciting that we just get to roll right into watching some more Avs hockey. So can't wait for that. We'll have a post-game show, or I don't know if we'll do it the night after or maybe in the morning, but regardless, we will have a show for you guys, and we'll talk about how that one goes. Can't wait. Thanks for watching. If you haven't checked us out on all our other platforms, we have the video live on YouTube, but we've also got the audio all over the place, whether that's Spreaker, where we're hosted, iTunes, Google Play, anywhere you listen to your podcasts. Check us out, and we'll see you in our next episode.
Go Avs, baby.